There's lots of tools that help you find land. The thing that really makes Pillar different and what sets us apart is that, and they looked at the technology that we were building and said, I would use that and I would pay you a lot of money for that. Really where I see my role and what we're building with Pillar is, we want to bring the technology to the customers. The person who works at the permitting desk at lunch might have a different interpretation of what the allowed use of a project is versus the person who's working there, in the morning. All of the stuff that you're doing, browsing between windows and tabs, Googling different terms, writing stuff down into a document or an Excel sheet, this is all stuff that AI is going to do way faster and way cheaper than you are.
I mean, this is way grander than just completing tasks. This will fundamentally change our species as a human.
Yeah.
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to Talkin St. Pete. I'm real excited about today's episode. But before we get into that, I want to let you know that this is sponsored by Bogden Homes at Keller Williams St. Pete. So if you know anyone in the greater Tampa area that needs a great resource in the real estate world, we're here to help. Whether you're looking to buy, looking to sell, or thinking about investing, Bogden Homes is here to help you. And now on to my awesome guest. We've been sitting here chatting ahead of the show, so we're going to jump right back into that. But I got Dylan Goren, CEO and co-founder of Pillar. Dylan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Ryan.
Yeah, dude, fired up. So we were just nerding out, talking AI and quantum and all the fun stuff, dude. But tell us, what is Pillar?
Yeah. So Pillar is a technology company that I started about 1.5 years ago. My background's been in real estate technology. I was most recently at JLL, and then have always been waiting for the opportunity to jump out on my own. Everything that's been going on with AI, great point in time. So took the jump, started Pillar, and we help residential developers find land faster using software, AI, and data.
Love that, dude. That's cool, man. So I'm always curious, where was the seed of thought that led you to that?
Yeah, it was a long and windy road. So there definitely was no single light bulb moment that I had before taking the jump and starting the business. In fact, the first thing that we were doing when we started off was totally different. We were helping out residential property managers with like a maintenance and leasing chatbot that we built and sold. And then, that hit some challenges. We ended up pivoting and tried out basically everything under the sun in real estate. We moved from there into helping with the permitting process. So we were talking with planning departments, developers a little bit there, talking with architects on, code compliance with, their building information modeling. And then through that kind of loop-de-loop path, we learned a lot. We built a lot of prototypes, and I think it basically laid this foundation where eventually we started to get introduced to some developers just through connections that we had made. And they looked at the technology that we were building and said, I would use that and I would pay you a lot of money for that if you tweaked it in this way. And so it was really just a lot of us colliding with other people, asking lots of questions, and helping to try and build something useful through conversation.
Okay, so you had a craft. It wasn't an original thought. It was modified through trial and error. Sounds like a little bit, right, and through other people's needs. But programming. So has that been an interest of yours previous to your last job?
Yeah. I mean, technology has been a thread throughout my entire life. Whether I liked it or not, I was raised by a dad who's a technology entrepreneur and a computer programmer. And since I was young and before I could remember, I had some kind of computer or device in my hands and was learning how to use it. Both of my brothers went on to be software engineers. I took the route of studying business, but I think I look at the world through the lens of technology and through software. And ultimately, after graduating, went and started working in technology companies. Most of my background was as a product manager, so basically bridging the gap between engineering teams and the customers who need something done. So I speak the language. I know enough to be dangerous. And yeah, I think technology's eating the world. It's changing everything that we do every day.
Yeah, and it's really cool to have you here in St. Pete, local, to be doing this. As I keep meeting more and more of you guys in terms of your programming brains. I love it because I love to nerd out on it. And Cole was so kind to connect us. How do you know Cole?
High school, actually. Yeah. Cole's one of the first people that I met. So I went to Shorecrest. I finished out. I moved from Atlanta, grew up, born and raised there 15 years. Came down sophomore year of high school. Cole's one of the first people that I met in a computer science class of all places, and he started talking to me about how he was building his own synthesizer and his own computers, and we've just kept in touch. We both graduated 2015 from Shorecrest. So full circle moment, we both kind of went on our separate paths, went to school, ran into each other a couple of times in between, and then we both started companies at the exact same time together. So
very serendipitous.
Yeah,
Could
totally.
almost say that you're entangled, right?
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Cole, very smart guy. I can tell already from our conversations, extremely smart guy. I love nerding out with you guys on this stuff, and cool that you're here and putting St. Pete on the map a little bit in the technology space. Because I don't think people think of that when they think of St. Pete, but it's starting to become that a little bit. More and more entrepreneurs are moving here, and now with the accessibility of people being able to, do programming from anywhere. So tell me, like, what has this experience been like in the entrepreneurial world, like leaving a company now, starting your own thing, and how has the city, if at all, helped you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, St. Pete, I think, is in such an awesome point in time, and I think has started to have its moment in the sun, particularly with the pandemic. I feel like accelerated this trend of a lot of digital and remote workers coming to a place like St. Pete. I look around when I walk around downtown now. It used to be that I knew probably 1 in 5 people walking around, and now I don't know anybody. Everyone looks new, which I think is awesome. There's so much growth that's happening. So yeah, I mean, for me, St. Pete still has this small pond kind of feel to it, which I love. So even though there's this growth that's happening, and I think it has a super bright future and a lot of growth potential still to realize, I think it still has this small pond feel where it was really easy. My job in the early days of starting the company was just to like I said, collide with people. Like I just needed to find people who had problems related to what we were doing and pick their brain and figure out how we could help. So being here in St. Pete, small pond feel, so easy to start talking to people and them saying, talk to this guy, talk to that guy. So, I was able to get in touch with architects, people involved in, some pretty meaningful development projects in the area around here. And that played a huge role in us figuring out what we're doing.
That's awesome. So where's your passion lie? Is there a particular place in the programming or business world where you're like, time flies by, you don't even realize it? I mean, and now with AI, I'm sure your programming world's a little bit different. One, I guess that's a twofold question of what part of the business are you most passionate about, and how has AI changed that for you?
Yeah. I think, so for me, to answer your first question, I'm a people person at the end of the day. And I get lost, having conversations like this with our customers, with potential new customers, just talking about the new world of possibilities that's out there and what can we be doing together. So the thing and the reason that I think underlying that makes me love it is I love playing this job of being the translator and trying to take, spending the time in the quiet hours to understand the latest of what's going on inside the technology, working with my partner, my co-founder, who is, my chief technology officer and in this stuff even deeper than I am, and figuring out where can we pluck in all of this fast-paced, light-speed environment of new developments, new capabilities, where can we pluck what's relevant to help people and bring that across the bridge to go and talk to real estate professionals, developers, land teams, and figure out how can we make your days easier. So that's what I get lost in time with, and I would say, to answer the second piece of the question, we could spend, hours going into that. But in short, I would say in terms of how AI is changing that and changing the rest of the business, like it's all encompassing. So related to, conversations and connecting with other people, AI is playing a role in just helping me be more omnipresent. I can spread my voice and talk to more people and create more opportunities way faster through using AI as a thought partner, kind of like you were describing to me. There's a lot of rabbit holes to go down. There's a lot of things you can do with AI to start to just say, hey, I've got a stray thought while I'm driving in the car or taking a walk. How could I turn this into something that I can share with a lot of people? Whether it's an email that I can send out to some people that I know, a LinkedIn post that I can share. So there's a huge acceleration in being able to spread my voice and meet and connect with more people as a result of that. And then obviously on the technical side, there's a whole world of things that it's accelerating there too.
Yeah, I mean, so much stuff there. So I don't want to spend a little time here, but because you started out at an early age programming, this has to be fascinating
and being able to do what you get, like it probably took you weeks to what you can do in hours, if not minutes.
Oh my God. It's like teams of people that would take weeks or quarters, can get done with one person, two people over the course of hours, days. It's shocking. It enables what we're doing right now in the company for sure.
So how do you see that, like being in the software space, being, having your finger on the pulse on the technology, what are you most excited about this coming down the pipeline, and what do you see how this shifting in the world of programming and software development?
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so much there. I mean, I think the biggest shifts that are happening right now to try and, I guess, tap into and maybe make sense of some of the cliches that are and the buzzwords that are out there. 2025, I think, has in a lot of ways been dubbed the year of the agent, the AI agent. And I think to try and put maybe more practical terms to that, really what I think is getting exciting there is 2022 to 2024, we had this period where we started to see that natural language, English, was the new computing language. I could talk to GPT and I can get not only an answer like a Google search, but I can start to get code that executes and does a job for me. And that has improved and improved and improved to the point where now it's performing at quite a sophisticated level, like the level you would expect from maybe a relatively experienced software engineer. And I think that the next big breakthrough that all of the biggest AI companies are sprinting toward right now is building out a framework to allow these LLMs and the technology to behave more and more autonomously. So I think it will come. We're not going to see Terminator this year. That's not what's going to happen.
Not this year.
But I think what we're going to see is incremental advancements where the technology will be able to complete jobs with less and less instruction. We're building reusable infrastructure that lets you say, I need to get a job done. I need to have this report created. Go look across these 100 websites and tell me the answer to this very complicated question. If you've ever tried out deep research and a lot of tools that are happening there. So that I think is an early example of some of the capabilities that AI is starting to gain. And I think that all of the best technology companies are building around that and saying, how can we, automate some of these rote or redundant tasks that people are doing in their day-to-days to help people do what they do best, go back to relationship building or making higher value decisions.
Yes. Man, one, for anyone listening, and if you're not using chat, you need to. And if you haven't played with deep research mode, dude, it's so neat.
Yep.
It's
like you got a little analyst in your pocket.
I mean, just cross-referencing in 8 minutes, it can do research that would have taken you a week, and went through 100 different resources and proper scholarly research papers and websites and cross-referenced and came up with a counter argument to the counter argument. And last night, rabbit hole moment, was watching a podcast about how fluoride's bad is a neurotoxin. And I'm like, was that controversial, or is there real science behind that? Turns out there's a shit ton of science behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, deep research. Is fluoride bad for brain health? And give me a counter argument to it. And what are the main companies that are sourcing fluoride? Deep research mode. 8 minutes later, I have a full essay on all the research done on fluoride from tons of different institutes, tons of meta-analysis and research studies on it. And then even going down into like the Dental Association lobbying to keep fluoride in the drinking water because it's good for the teeth. But direct correlation to an increase in fluoride does drop IQ. So it's like, what is going on?
You get the full story now.
Full story.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like you could argue any side of it, So to me, no controversy. I think right there, follow the money. Money is keeping fluoride in the water.
And I think something important about that you shared is, you took in the process of prompting it, the time to say, give me a more balanced opinion, give me a counter argument, share with me. And I think that is, we were talking earlier about, education and curiosity being the most important piece of it going forward, because now it's how good of a question can you ask, not so much what facts have you memorized and can you recite. So yeah, I think that's a great illustration of it. And I guess to finish the point with something else that you'll probably agree with, I think, there's this term vibe coding and vibe.
I haven't heard this yet.
Oh,
no,
God,
fill me in, dude.
So Andre Karpathy, who was on the OpenAI team, used to be at Tesla. He's a huge voice in the AI space. I think he's the one that coined the term vibe coding, and basically it kind of marks this shift from coding being, a task of, in some cases, rote memorization, understanding how do I need to define these specific chunks and execute it in a way where the instructions do what I want it to do, into something that's really just more about vibes. It's about saying, this is what I want, and you throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And you worry less about the boilerplate and the nitty gritty details, because AI takes care of that. And it might not always be as beautiful as if you wrote the code line by line entirely yourself, but if it works, you're solving the problem faster. So it kind of marks this paradigm shift, and I think how some people are thinking about getting that type of work done. And I think it broadly applies to just how work is starting to get done with AI more and more, is that there's a bit of a shift to throw the thing at the wall. Like,
Can you give a tactical example?
Like, let me go and run a deep research task and let the AI go spend 8 minutes figuring this out, instead of me rabbit holing, clicking through links, watching YouTube videos, and spending 45 minutes to build an opinion. I'm going to go through it and let it do that. And maybe I have something else it is that I need to do. Maybe if that's part of my job, right, and I'm researching fluoride in a far more professional setting, maybe I have 6 other threads that I need to be pulling on. And I'm saying, deep research, go look at, the political incentives and the lobbying instances of this. Okay, great. Now get another deep research. Show me examples of legislation that's passed as a result of this. So I think it's more about being able to just set those agents in motion and let them go and bring you back answers that then you can go and take action on. Same thing applies in coding. Same thing applies.
And then you could
else.
take all those 4 essays that you just got from that and copy them all back in and say, now make a comprehensive analysis of all this. Like, I think that people need to go deeper with their AI tools.
It's AI all the way down.
Yeah. I just and I love that we're like, yes. And for those listening, like, dude, I thought this was about St. Pete. This is about St. Pete, because as a city, we need to embrace the technology change
100%.
Overall. And and I can bring it back to the real estate world. The permitting department is backed up right now because they're working with an archaic software and actual man hours, whereas a lot of this permitting could be thrown through an AI system so fast, but it's just getting the tool, the program, and the city to adapt it, and we could be so much more efficient in that category.
I could spend an entire hour talking to you about permitting alone. So we spent never had the opportunity to speak to anybody in the city in St. Pete on this. So open invitation there. If there's anyone in the city that wants to chat, I would love to have a conversation too. But talked with a lot of developers and a lot of people in the private sector about the experiences that they've had inside of permitting. And, generally it's a nightmarish term that brings up a lot of bad experiences and scar tissue and negative connotations. And yeah, I mean, permitting, I think in a lot of ways, the challenge with it today is that it's largely subjective. So although we have black and white rules in the municipal code and zoning ordinances and building code, inherently there are contradictions inside of those codes. And inherently it's up to the person who's sitting at the permitting desk at that point in time to decide, do I approve this? Is this compliant or not? I spoke with, city planners in say in the Northeast, as well as in large southeastern metros, some of the biggest cities in the Southeast, who, are working in the permitting department, and it's their job to go through and review these plans, and they're still counting parking spaces by hand, and figuring out if it's compliant or not. And I guess the thing to me that is so confusing with this, we talk about trying to find better uses for people's time. If there's such a big backlog in the permitting department, and you want to solve that so that people can build better projects quicker and we can focus public resources on, higher value activities. The model of permitting is already, it's close to being this kind of black and white thing where it's like, you should just have the requirements and a checklist lined up, and a developer should be able to look at those and say, my project fits, I'm going to submit it, and with basically 99% confidence, I'm going to get approved. Total opposite of how it works today. And I think there's a lot of reasons about why it's very difficult to shift into doing that. But, I know just from talking with folks in permitting departments and in planning departments, the person who works at the permitting desk at lunch might have a different interpretation of what the allowed use of a project is versus the person who's working there, in the morning. And that makes for a very hostile system for the private sector to navigate and to try and invest and to build more efficiently.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics behind it too, because you know, I think there's some times where permitting and zoning needs to change in certain areas because it's archaic and from the 50s or whatever, and the city has developed in a different way. But I think to your point, to the person who's just trying to do a kitchen remodel in their house, and it's like just stamp that thing,
Yeah.
you know, let's get it done, versus a developer and they maybe want to change the use or the zonage of the area. Okay, make the accept and then have some human review there,
Yep.
but don't backlog that person with all these,
Yeah.
you know, flooded homes that need to get reviewed. You know what I mean? So there's definitely some nuances there, and I can see there being, look, if there's one thing, because I'm going to bring it back because we talk one, curiosity, and quantum, because I'm on a quantum kick, and in the quantum world, not everything's black and white. And so we try to live in this black and white world, which does work for the most part. But there are times in life where that we are in this
Totally.
superposition of an area and in the gray where things can be a combination of both. And I think that's where opportunity exists, right? You know, for that developer that says, look, I really have a vision
Yeah.
for this area and it could be this. And if we just open our minds to the possibility and how it's going to be good for the public and the residents and the area, then, you know, things should get approved. But like back to my point, if it's just black and white, it's simple housing remodel,
Yep.
those things shouldn't be backlogged.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about highest, you know, in real estate, we talk about highest and best use. You know, highest and best use of time, you know, with people, I think is something that could be more closely paid attention to in real estate instead of just highest and best use of a property or an asset. And I think this is a great example of, it's not about automating the permitting department end to end. That's never going to be the right answer. There's going to be cases where we'll want human judgment and we'll want to say, how do we want to shape the future of St. Pete? What does the planning department have to say about this? What does the fire department have to say about this? What does the developer have to say about this? What does the citizens of St. Pete have to say about this? But that's not going to be every single case, right? It's not every single case needs that level of review. And, you know, I'm certain that there's already some amount of measures put into place to try and help handle, like you said, if it's the kitchen remodel or something that's smaller scale, in a different path to make that quicker. But overall, I think there's just a lot of room for improvement to think about permitting in a way where you can siphon off and say, this is stuff that we can put in diligent work up front to define clear standards, and it just goes through and it's not taking, you know, a paid laborer's time, a human's time to sit and review it. This information is all digital. That was the thing that shocked me the most about it, is even with these more complicated plan reviews, when you start to get beyond kitchen remodels and into, you know, larger properties that are getting built, you know, most projects, they're all being designed inside of building information modeling systems. So all of the data is digital, you know, down to, you know, the square millimeter, how big is the building, where are all of the walls, where is all of the piping, what's the ingress and egress width, is this fire compliant or not, how many parking spaces there are. That can all be done in the software when the architect's building it in the first place. And we're doing this very repetitive performance of, you know, the architect goes and designs it all out meticulously, then they convert it into a flat PDF file and put it across onto the desk for the planning department for them to review it, and then they're sitting there and, you know, counting it either on their computer or on a physical plan to re-verify something that the computer already knows. This is not a good use of time.
I agree with that. Dylan. So tell me about Pillar and what its specialty is, because we haven't really dove into that.
For sure. Yeah, so really where we're targeting is helping with identifying new development opportunities for residential developers primarily. So we work with a lot of single-family developers in the Southeast, some multifamily developers, manufactured housing, basically anything under the sun in the residential space. And the problem that we're helping to solve is that, you know, we've got a housing shortage to start with. So there's issues there that need to be solved with building more housing. What these developers face is a challenge of being able to quickly make sense of where is it feasible and opportunistic for me to go and invest and provide new housing in a given market. And currently this data, and it's a lot of data, is spread all over the place. You've got your city GIS viewer where you can kind of browse some of the parcel information, the zoning. You've generally got future land use maps, which sometimes they're in the GIS viewer, sometimes it's a PDF, sometimes it doesn't exist at all. And then you've got all this other information related to topography, like where's the floodplain? Where are there wetlands? Is the property for sale currently? Is it not for sale? Do I want to try and get in direct touch with the owner? You know, is there a broker who already has this under contract? it's very, very difficult for these developers to sit and make sense of all of that. And that's what we help with, is we apply these same principles that you and I have just been talking about, of leveraging software to go and make sense of the terabytes and terabytes of data that are out there about all of the parcels in the markets the developers are looking at. Where the rent's moving, the home sale value's moving, and where is it possible for you to go and build. We bring that all together into one place and help them spend their time sourcing deals, not just looking across 10 different websites to try and find it.
So you're doing all the dirty work for them.
Correct.
You're saving time. Best use of time.
Yep.
That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty neat. And what are some? So is that developers' hardest thing? Is just identify, like, they're able to now say whether they find the lot through you or they find it, then they can come to you and see if it checks all their boxes.
Yeah. So the idea is kind of like I talked about with a better potential approach to permitting. We will define in our software. Our customers can define their buy box up front in pretty granular detail. So they can say, I'm looking for a minimum of 20 buildable acres, whether it's an assemblage or an outright single parcel. I don't want to be looking at government-owned land or HOA-owned land or kind of land that's owned by disqualified owners, where I know that they're likely not going to sell in the fashion that I want to. And you can get a whole lot deeper to look at, I want to be close to home values that are $300,000 to $500,000, or I want to be within half a mile of a Publix or a grocery store. All of that stuff you can define up front in detail, and then basically you can just click county by county, and you will see every single opportunity that matches that criteria. You can verify it with your expert eye if you want, and then we go to the extent even to help them get in touch with the owners if they want to, or check online to see if it's already for sale, all inside one place.
How long has this taken? How long did this take you to build?
It's been a full 1.5 year journey to figure out exactly what to build. I'd say we've been sprinting really hard at this specific problem for probably since July of last year. So however many months that's been.
Because it sounds like it's pretty. It's not rocket science, but there's a lot of it's multifaceted in terms of all the criteria and if this then this type of.
Yeah. And making it simple, has been something that we have to work really hard on. A lot of these developers are people that are busy, and they're used to being kind of conductors of the orchestra, where they find a project and they've got to coordinate among their team, among an architect, a civil engineer, a land use attorney, the city, whoever. And so they're not all of these people are sitting trying to use a piece of software for 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So making those types of complicated criteria and those complicated queries simple has been one of, I think, the things that have been able to separate us. We really deeply empathize with the need to have something that's dead simple, that explains itself at a kindergarten or a 5th grade level, so that when you've got that spare 30 minutes to say, I need to go and source some new opportunities and fill the top of the pipeline, I can do it quickly, and I don't have to worry about figuring out a tool and reaching out to support or looking across 10 different websites to do it.
So it's your user interface is simple.
Yeah.
No one cares what's going on in the back end except for you.
Exactly. Nobody cares how it works.
They just want to know, am I going to get the result?
I want to click a button and I want to see what I want to see.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Powerful, man. Powerful. So where do you see the future of this going? Like, what's your plan?
Yeah, I think we see ourselves helping a lot more developers build a lot more housing a lot faster. I think that we're always interested in spreading, our wings across any other types of opportunities to help people use these principles of software to get their jobs done more effectively, get the burden off of their backs. Most of the people that we're talking to have just an overwhelming amount of work they need to be doing on their computer, and they just don't get to it because more important things take priority. So, we're always interested in helping out other folks. We've talked with, folks in the municipal sector as well about helping with making their GIS functionality more accessible to this private market, so that they can have more opportunities coming in the door, and developers start looking at their market in a more attractive way. So that's one piece of it, and I think really to say one last piece on some of the future for us is the way that we separate ourselves. There's lots of tools that help you find land today. There's lots of other pieces of software that are out there. The thing that really makes Pillar different and what sets us apart is that we are putting the tools into our customers' hands. So most other tools that are out there, if not all of them, all the way up to the co-stars of the world, the Yardies, they have built technology in an era where it was, we're going to build a walled garden. Basically, the technology is closed source, and it's like this kind of master golden data set of all of this information that we invested all this money to put into a place, and then we add filters for you to leverage it and go and find what you need to find inside of it. The way that we look at this differently is that we work almost exclusively with public data, and we give tools to our customers to go and bring all of that into one place. Almost like how you're using deep research to go and look across all of this public data between YouTube videos, articles, whatever else is out there. We're basically trying to build something like that for these developers, so that over time, as people start to get more advanced with how they can use technology and how they think about where do I want to build my next project, now they can have really granular tools to say, okay, I want to run a search that helps me go and look for urban infill opportunities. So I need to have rents that are at least $2, per square foot. And I've got to have, only about 4 acres of land because I'm going to build something higher density. That's a playbook I'm going to run inside of Pillar. And then maybe I've got another playbook where I've got this investment thesis on building some more suburban, garden style opportunities where I'm going to need some more land because it's going to be a less dense project. But I can also look at places with maybe lower rents. I can look at, different types of conversion opportunities where maybe I want, a suburban office space that I can knock down and turn into multifamily. So getting more sophisticated there is the long-term vision of where we see Pillar setting ourselves apart.
Is Pillar dedicated to certain areas right now, or is this nationwide?
Nationwide.
So that has to be complicated just from this point of so many different public websites.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we've got a variety of solutions for that we use. We've got some great partnerships that we use to aggregate a lot of the basic parcel and assessor data across every single county, 160 million something parcels across the US. And then you're absolutely right. It's a lot of hard work and time spent with us digging through the archives and figuring out how to make sense of the other pieces of information that are out there and how to make it accessible to our customers.
Does CoStar or any of those big ones have any API or like where they'll let you plug in if you were a member?
CoStar, I believe, does have an API. I've chatted with a couple folks at some big development shops who are looking at leveraging some CoStar APIs for rent data. To my understanding, it's something that is so expensive that you have to basically be one of the largest companies in the U.S. to leverage it.
They are the bully. They are the gorilla in the shop.
For sure, yeah.
They are a bully. It's a monopoly.
They're a big company, and they swing their weight around, and they've got an aggressive strategy. I mean, they've built up to their credit an incredible defensible business that is very difficult to usurp. But I think at the end of the day, really where I see my role in the space and what we're building with Pillar is, we want to bring the technology to the customers. I think that for a long time, the attitude in the technology space with real estate customers, and to no particular person's fault, it's just the way that products have been built, such as CoStar, is that you, the real estate person, don't worry about the technology. We do the technology job, and we charge you a lot of money to go and do that. Don't worry about how it works. Don't worry about how we get the data. We're going to build it and you're going to use it. And there weren't really a lot of other options. And I think the future that, I see that feels brighter to me is we want to put these tools into people's hands and let them get the full benefits of understanding how can I leverage technology to make my day-to-day easier instead of having somebody wrap it up inside of a black box and say, this is the only way you get to use it.
Right. Yeah. So there might be an exit opportunity right there, right, to help CoStar, one of these bigger conglomerates, better, because I will tell you from experience, their user interface sucks. MLS sucks, like everything, like archaic. If you don't enter an address, the exact, like if I put street and I spell it versus ST, it might not show up.
Yep.
That's how stupid these search results are in these big databases. Like, are you kidding me? It's 2025 and I have to type it in exact. Like it's crazy how slow these systems are.
Yep.
So I see a great future for you to disrupt this, right? There's always the small player that can come in and move a little faster on the speedboat because it's hard to turn the big yacht around and change it.
Totally.
Right? So
totally.
Doesn't mean you can't beat them.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's whether it's something that they end up integrating themselves, or Just the thing I think that I and my co-founder care about is that we've just seen in other areas of technology, this is the format that is the most beneficial to the market. This is how people benefit from technology the most. You look at tools like Zapier or tools like how HubSpot works, where they have this open ecosystem that can integrate across many different tools. The tools that work well together and play nicely together benefit from all of these enhanced pieces of functionality, whereas tools that build the walled garden approach, there's certain advantages to it. Don't get me wrong. There's not one right, one wrong, but there is just a gross lack of the more open ecosystem, integrated approach to technology inside of real estate.
Yeah, man. I love what you're doing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Aside from all, I mean, so where do you see the future? Like crystal ball, this is your analysis. If you had to predict what AI is going in the next 5 years, just for funsies.
Yeah.
There's no one's gonna hold you to this. But
Yeah. 5 years out. So we're talking just in general. Where's the world going? Real estate.
Yeah, man.
In general.
This is like some fun, just little brain tease.
So yeah, I think if I were to try and take what I've been seeing happen so far and extend that out 5 years, I mean, I think we are definitely going to see a huge offloading of the work that people are doing today onto AI systems. And I think there is going to be a meaningful restructuring in how organizations and teams think about getting their work done. Shopify memo that came out, I'm not sure if you saw that. That was making a lot of news. CEO of Shopify, posted this internal memo that got leaked about, basically AI not being optional, in the company. Like, you must be using this in basically every facet of how you're getting your work done. If you want to get more headcount on your team, you need to show me why you can't get it done with AI first. And this made a whole bunch of news and is making a lot of buzz. I do think that it's still rough around the edges. Like, there's a lot of productivity to be gained immediately today, which is incredible. That's increasing every day. There's a lot of rough edges that we're still figuring out. But if we're talking 5 years from now, I think we're going to see a meaningful shift in the way that large organizations, and even small teams, get their work done today. You got to think about how much you're doing on your computer, and this is particularly in jobs that, where you're touching a screen. All of the stuff that you're doing, browsing between windows and tabs, Googling different terms, writing stuff down into a document or an Excel sheet. This is all stuff that AI is going to do way faster and way cheaper than you are. And so, and it's not something that us as humans really should want to do either. This is repetitive work. So I think we're going to see a future where that stuff just starts to turn more into work that gets done just via simple instruction. And organizations are going to focus a lot more on loading responsibility and learning how to do this well, learning how to instruct AI and to build AI systems that accept their instructions and do their work for them accurately, efficiently, and in a cost-effective way. So maybe that's not even a huge hot take because a lot of that's been in the air already, but I think that so much is going to shift about, if you think about how the middle manager or the executive gives instructions for a team to get something done today. Hey, we need to build this feature. Or, hey, we need to, target this market. Give the marching orders. It goes downstream, gets reviewed. Someone 3 levels down does the work, gives a recommendation or report back up, and there's all of this push and shove to try and figure out what are we doing. And I think a lot of that is for the effective teams that want to run circles in terms of productivity around that outdated style. You're going to see people learn to basically architect and define, here is what I want to do, here's the job I want to get done in explicit detail, and then now we let it run and it goes and executes. We look at the results. Was it good? Was it bad? And then we go and try and do, we learn from that and we do something better. So those are kind of some spitball thoughts.
I like it. I think this will fundamentally change how humans communicate. I already have this thing, Dylan, that I wear. I don't have it on me today because I'm not wearing a jacket. It's called Limitless.
Okay.
That records every conversation that I have throughout the day and then analyzes that and tells me where I could be more empathetic, where I could have been better, what happened, who did I meet, what conversation did I have. So all of our conversations and what we do will, like, the AI will know us so well that it will be able to predict and help us communicate better. I won't even have to communicate with you. I will just have a thought and the AI will be able to communicate to you in a way that's articulated and understand. So I think our ability to understand each other will increase dramatically. So
So I think from a brain perspective of logic and black and white decision making, AI will take it all away from us. Us as humans, until we get AI into the quantum level, our only connection will come from intuition and love. That's what will keep us human for now. But I mean, this is way grander than just completing tasks. This will fundamentally change our species as humans.
Yeah. You're looking past me. You're looking beyond the 5 years. You're looking at what?
No, I don't think it's that far.
Do you think 5 years we're going to be?
No. Are you like, you know how, and like how fast this is happening? Think about what's happening with chat just in the last 12 months.
Yep.
Like, and it's only going to get faster and adapted quicker. Like, I now have a device that I'm wearing, right? And we already have all these things. And why do you think Apple has been so slow to release anything that's worthwhile? Because when they do, it's going to be revolutionary. Because Apple doesn't put out bad shit.
I would take the opposite stance. I think they've kind of gotten a little bureaucratic, and I think that they're losing their touch a little bit there.
A little bit, but I think it's because whatever they have right now isn't to the level that they want it yet to where they future. Because I think of a space of what they're doing with Apple Vision. You think of the watch. They already have all of our data.
Yeah.
It's private. It's kept inside. So now, to the point of, imagine I can say, "Hey Siri, sorry if I just set anyone's off, and book me a hotel at this. Make sure the instructions are in my calendar. This, that, and make sure it's clear. Contact the babysitter. Boom." And it has access. It doesn't need. It already has access to all the tools. Now it just needs the agent to go do all the things. And I don't think they're at a spot yet to where that's working. And they're definitely working on that.
Let's go deeper into that, because I think Apple undeniably is one of the best delivery mechanisms and distribution networks for a technology like this. Like you said, it is embedded into every aspect of our personal lives already. And so if you wanted to flip a switch and turn on intelligence inside of people's personal lives and get adoption, I mean, look no further. That is the creme de la creme. I think they definitely, to me, they bombed with the Apple Intelligence release. It is nothing
well, they said
close.
There was an internal thing. They shouldn't have released it.
Yeah,
there was a marketing thing just to get people for the phone but it sucks. It's not even on. Yeah. Like it was a marketing. It was someone goofed.
Yep.
like there was a big goof in the marketing department, and the engineering team probably said, "No, we're not ready." And they're like, "We have to get it out because this is the only way we're going to drive sales on the next iPhone." To call it Apple Intelligence, but Apple Intelligence is still Siri.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw a little bit of this with Google too, when ChatGPT really had their viral moment, and you saw that Google looked like they were on the back foot all of a sudden, where it was like, hey, people don't need to search that way anymore. People want it differently. And I think there was this moment where everyone was holding their breath saying, is Google about to tumble? Like, are we about to see, like, are they just not going to embrace this type of new search that people are using, and is OpenAI and whatever other companies who are offering, technology like LLMs going to take it over? And I think we saw them very quickly course correct. And now they're kind of back into a position where they're leading in terms of some of the technology that they're releasing is right at the cutting edge, up there with every other company. Apple, I think, is another example where they got caught on their back foot, from the maturity of the technology and the AI that they've been releasing. Like you said, somebody goofed, they released this, but I think that there was a lot of pressure to say, we got to push it out, and we got to learn, and we got to ship something new. But I think it kind of showed their cards a little bit that you obviously haven't been investing in this in a serious way and thinking about how to make this consumer accessible today, right now. You've been talking about it as if it's this far out potential thing that might happen, like a Apple Car, but you're clearly not ready. And so I would love to see them course correct in a similar way, because that same vision that you just described of the personal assistant, where it's got all of that context, having a company like Apple who has all of that context already, you could save people a whole lot of time and add a whole lot of value if you leverage that correctly. But I think they still have yet to show that they can do that. So I would love to see it. I'm in their corner. Like, I'm as big of an Apple fan, I think, as anybody else, but I'm cheering for them to do better, I think.
I think we're only asking them to do better, but they're so big that they have to get it right. And so this little goof, it's unfortunate that happened for them, but I do think when they do it, it will be revolutionary. It will just as the iPhone changed. I think when they turn it on, It will fundamentally change how we communicate. Like it will be that big.
Yep.
And I think that's why it's not there yet. Like their work, Apple's already like their back end. Who knows what's happening right in the deep, behind the retina scanners of Apple, right? And you have to have all the clearances to get there. But I bet you it's something powerful because you think like it has to be. It just has to be. I think between the ecosystems of how Apple is so integrated that. When they turn it on, it's going to be crazy, and they're probably learning. And then I go, okay, well, wasn't it crazy that they partnered with Chat just for like a second on this, right?
Yeah.
And did Chat just get a bunch of data that wasn't? Because you got to think we're only seeing the consumer facing. We don't know what these programs can do behind closed doors of what they're really capable of, and how they're scraping stuff. And I know we're getting into the weeds here a little bit, but. This is what I think about every night.
Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, it's stuff that impacts everybody. It's stuff that's going to change everyone's lives, whether they like it or not.
We're in the early era of the internet with AI.
Yeah.
Like this is like people are still figuring out if they need an email address.
And it's interesting because the internet is in recent enough memory for people where they saw that happen too. And now it's like, what is this? So there's almost this level of self-reference that I think some people are able to have where it's like, I've already been through so many disruptive waves.
This one's the biggest.
This one? But yeah,
this one's the biggest.
I agree.
This is bigger. Like you were very young. I was young, 2000s, .com era, but people will remember that, and this is bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it in the conversations that I have, even with, gray-haired real estate executives, and the tone of voice. I think in a lot of ways for the people who are paying attention is, hey, I thought that we had 12 to 24 months to start to understand AI and how to use it. I don't think that's the right timeline anymore. I think it's like right now.
Right. When you point, that's why when I say 5 years, dude, we're talking about 2030. Like, what? It's going to be so fast, so crazy. Because just in the way the last year my team has adopted it in the real estate industry. A year ago, we were not talking about teaching real estate to real estate agents, AI to real estate agents. Now it's every hot buzz class that you can see is totally. Like how are we using AI?
How much I know. So Ryan Serhant, I know, has made a lot of waves with kind of how much has that changed how people are looking at what they're doing and
so world. I think there's a lot of opportunity yet, and some of the bigger players, Keller Williams included, are behind the curve a little bit on the AI shift. It came out with a few stuff. I don't know if they're focusing on the right thing. At the last conference I was at with them, I met with some of our top tech people and was like sounding the alarm bells, kind of like, yo, we're moving too slow. Because this other stuff is out there, and what the hell are we focusing on? So I think it allows opportunity for disruptors to come in and shake things up, just as you're doing with Pillar, because they're these big mammoths. They're hard to move quick. When you're a freightliner and you need to be a speedboat, it's tough.
Totally.
And I don't think, I really look back to Apple a little bit with Steve Jobs. When he created the Macintosh, that whole team worked out of a different building than the rest of Apple. It was like startup land. He created an environment for them to move, to dress different, to talk different, to not have to play into the bureaucracy of the rest of the company. And then boom, Macintosh was born. And other companies, and I heard this from Gary Vaynerchuk years ago, other companies need to be trying to put themselves out of business. And right now is a time to do it. And I don't think they all are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's not an easy thing to do. It doesn't come naturally, I don't think, to most people. And I guess ultimately, what I was saying, my comment earlier about Apple and them dropping the ball on this, I think I'm really speaking toward what you just described there, which is that, Apple, I think, used to have this super self-disruptive culture. Google as well, I think, has done a good job up until this point of having a great self-disruptive culture of being able, technology moves too quickly. You can't hold on to one thing for too long. And they've done a great job of saying, we got to, move with the curve. But it's what happens inherently inside of a large organization. And I say this just having worked inside of a large technology organization myself. And I've gone from teams of 2 to 90,000 and seen the differences. And entropy and the direction of how those organizations move is toward, naturally, people ask to have more budget and to hire more people and to kind of build out more responsibility that way. That's kind of how corporate culture works in a lot of ways. And that stifles the ability to ship and keep up with the curve like this. And so that's, I think, the opinion that I'm sharing is I think that it feels more likely to me that when Apple goofs and bombed on Apple intelligence, it feels like they just let a little bit too much of that entropy catch up to them, and that they've kind of got to stir the pot a little bit and, you know, start splitting people off and having them think more independently and figure out, hey, if we just threw out all the rules of how Apple got built up until today, what are we going to ship?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. They got to get back into startup mentality and stay true to their core values. And I think right now, one of my things that I've been focusing on is we need real leaders in communities more than we ever had, right? To create environments where people can get creative again and do all that, not worry about, you know, touching a line that's hot or whatever. You know, when people can't move freely, it's hard to create. You know, creativity and curiosity are the highest levels of intelligence that we're going to have right now, right? Who can be the most curious? You know, I just used this in my talk that I had last week. You know, Albert Einstein was quoted saying, "I'm not especially gifted or talented. I'm only very, very curious." And so we got to let our people be curious, and we need to lead them to be curious and ask all the hard questions and not worry about the red tape. So how do you like to spend your time in St. Pete when you're not behind a computer?
Oh, man. I love all the coffee shops around here. That's something I recently got into. I was never really a big coffee drinker, but
Now you're locked in. You need that extra boost, right?
dude, Craft Cafe, Keto Drip over there.
Yeah, that's what literally this
Oh my
is right
God,
here, dude.
it's just unreal.
Yeah.
Shout out to those guys. Paradeco, awesome place. Where else? Bandit, awesome.
You got all the
food
coffee
is
shops.
just too good for a coffee shop. Doesn't make sense. One other spot.
Dude, how
Uptown
cool is our
East.
city?
It's the thing that I love about St. Pete, and the thing that just is like a magnet to me here is you mentioned creativity, and there is so much awesome local business and people. You had the gentleman on from Green Bench too, one of my favorite spots.
Yeah,
Love going over
Nathan.
there.
Yeah.
Just that the feeling you get of, you can tell when you walk into a space like that, or Uptown Eats or Craft Cafe or any of those spots. It's a certain kind of energy of, you know, someone putting their life and soul into making something that's different, where you walk in, you feel like you're at home, and, you know, you can tell that someone just put their little twist or their flavor on whatever you're walking into. It's not just a Starbucks. And I love that. I love how St. Pete is so geared toward that. And there's these awesome pockets of, you know, collections of stores and businesses like that, where you can just bounce from one to the next, one to the next, one to the next, and you got the water right nearby, you got the sunshine. It's a special place.
Dude, I'm sitting here smiling
Yeah.
as you're talking about it because it's just so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. You're right. And it's just, it's community. There's communities everywhere. Everyone's in some type of community. You know, whether it's the brewery community, whether it's the tech community, whether it's the dog walking community,
Yep.
I don't care what waterfront dolphin watching community,
Yep.
whatever it is.
Yep.
The yoga, the fitness, you know, it's everything. And people right now, we need community. As the digital world, as we were just talking, I can bring it all back. Like, as we have become so disconnected through digital, like it's a double-edged sword. Like, it's connected us, but also disconnected us. Why is a walk on the beach so special?
Yeah.
Why is time in nature so special? Why is time with people who are like-minded and love the same thing so special? Because of that actual human connection that happens. And we have so much of that and so much opportunity for that here in St. Pete.
Totally. Yeah, it's a unique place, and it brings a feel that I think is just not in most other places that you go to. So, and I think that's a special ember that we've got in this city, and I think it's something we want to foster and grow. And I think, you know, it is attracting a lot of other people when they take notice of it. It's something that's very difficult to explain, you know, if you haven't walked in and felt it. Can't really be captured in photos, can't really be captured in you know, telling somebody over the phone. And I think the moment that people come down here and walk around downtown and kind of see
Yeah, tap in.
what a day in St. Pete's like, and what building routine around here is like. You mentioned yoga, Body Electric. My wife and I love going there. Such an awesome, unique place. Yeah, there's just special people doing special things.
So what's it been like for you? Because you I would say you grew up here.
Yeah,
you know,
second half of my adolescence
Yeah.
spent here.
and you've seen it change. I like to
Yeah.
ask this question all the time,
Yeah.
you know. But so like, you being like, okay, I've seen this place change. Most people when they grow up somewhere or spend, they're like, I can't wait to get out of here. But this is almost a different place than when you first came.
Yeah. I mean, I took some time away. Like, I went off to school. I went to school in Boston, stuck around there for a little bit to work, and you know, have traveled and seen other places. Spent some time working in New York City, so I can appreciate what St. Pete is for having worked and lived in those other places. Those other places are great too. But, St. Pete, it just, every single time I go to those places, I'm reminded of St. Pete's got something that other places don't. And it's changed for sure. I mean, I've seen it change even in, the relatively short time that I've been here since 2012, meaningful change. And I think, to some people who have been here even longer than that, I did come and visit St. Pete. We had family friends is basically what brought us to move here ultimately from Atlanta. So we would come and visit them from time to time too. And like, this place used to be sleepy. There was not a lot going on inside of St. Pete. And it's just crazy to see how much is happening now, how much energy there is, and without it having lost its character.
Yeah. No, it's the arts are stay strong, and we got to keep leaning into that. And it's because the local business just supports. I've had so many local businesses on now. I don't even know what episode this is. We're probably close to 80.
Yeah.
And most of them are all have like physical brick and mortar shops around town, and they all know each other. They're all well connected. They all support each other, even if they're in the same thing. The guys at Green Bench helped the guys over at Golden Isles by bringing over a keg before they were even officially open. Just like they're so supportive of one another. And it's really special. It's really, 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 really special. And just how active people are, and the weather.
Oh yeah.
It's just great. And I'm sure you can appreciate that coming from New York up north, the Northeast. Like there's I feel like if you bring that Northeast hustle down here, you can just dominate. Yeah. Because people do fall into a little bit of we'll start at 10 a.m.
It's easy to be tempted by the laid back environment.
We'll end at 3 o'clock today and go to the beach.
I mean, it's a great example. I was in a body electric yoga class when I was back home on a college break or something. It was like a 12 p.m. class on a Tuesday or something. And the instructor's looking around. It's a full class, and she was just kind of, laughing. She's like, do people in St. Pete even work? Where are all these people coming from?
Right, yeah.
And so, I mean, it's, for me personally, I love it just because it's nice to have that more laid back backdrop of living in this area, because I'm just going all the time, work, and being able to truly unplug from that. Whereas, if I'm in a concrete jungle like a New York City and I've just got stuff buzzing all of the time, my mind does not rest. And for me personally, that's not motivating me. That's just, it's making noise.
Exhausting.
It's making noise in my brain. Some people love it. My wife loves it. She gets energy from it. We would be there if it was entirely up to her. But I mean, St. Pete's got.
Did you guys meet up there?
We met in college in Boston.
Okay, so you brought her here.
I brought her here. I know. I converted her. I know. I'm trying to keep her to stick around. She has over time, and she's even seen in the short amount of time that she's come here. We did our wedding here actually.
Congrats, man.
And thanks. And I think she has tapped in. The more and more you spend time around here, you start to tap in and see what's going on. I think it's just it shows from how all of those small business owners are acting behind closed doors, supporting each other. Because I think my guess is that everyone involved in that business community knows that there's something special that's going on, and they want to make sure that we don't lose it and that it keeps going. And I think for me, as someone who's building a business now and picking where do I want to spend my time, where do I want to invest my efforts, it's inspiring to see that, and it makes me want to participate in it. It makes me want to say St. Pete is great, and I want to help make it the best possible place it can be. So that spirit, I think, is unique, because you have to find a place with all the right ingredients at the right point in time, to really get people to feel like they're all pitching in on the same boat and trying to make this rising tide that lifts everybody else up. And I feel like St. Pete's there.
Dude, you nailed it. I think this is a good place to wrap it up, and you're well spoken. But I ask every guest, it's your birthday, we're in St. Pete, where are we going to eat?
Oh, man. My gut reaction that I just said off the top of my head was 4-2, which newer spot, but really good. And family loves going there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that screams to mind, but that's the first one that jumped. I had a lot of really good dinners there. Wild Child's another place that I love, going there later this weekend, and just awesome environment. Again, super unique energy there. Lots of creativity on the menu. Those are the two I'll call out.
Okay, that's good, man. That's good. Dylan, for the guests that have made it this far into the show, what's one word they can comment below so that we know they're still here?
One word they can comment below so we know that they're still here, just to say hi. I would say a single word. Comment love.
Dude, that's good. That's good. That's good. Where can they find your software?
You can find Pillar at pillar.codes, pillar. dylan.codes, CODES, or the place where I'm most active is on LinkedIn. Come and find me, Dylan Goren, DYLAN GOREN on LinkedIn. I'm posting every week.
Love that. Appreciate you, Dylan. We'll also put all of his contact information as well as Pillar in the description below. If you've made it this far, comment love. It's important. It's the only thing that matters. Share with a friend, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Cool.